welcome to another episode of My Awesome Podcast. I am Salim. This is Mike. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
All right, like always, or at least seems like the last several, we're going to start out with a video.
Yeah.
Mammoths are absolutely massive animals, but I don't think some people realize just how big they are. The largest African elephants can reach around 13 feet or 4 meters tall at the shoulder and weigh around 10 tons. But the largest mammoth species, the steppe mammoth, were significantly larger. They could stand up to 15 feet or 4.5 meters tall and weigh nearly 15 tons. That would put them around the size of 2 average African elephants. Mammoths are incredible and impressive animals, and I feel like in recent years they haven't gotten as much attention as they deserve. So here's your reminder, these are absolute behemoths and are wonderful and brilliant animals. Who knows, maybe these cloning projects go well and we get to see a mammoth during our lifetime. One can only hope.
You heard correctly, they said cloning projects.
Yeah.
So I put up on the screen a graphic of the different mammoths, because there's a bunch of them. I think a lot of people are like thinking of like the woolly mammoth or whatever, but there's actually several of them. And the deal is that they were massive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the closest living, I guess, elephant, because if you think about, they're the closest related to an elephant, like I don't know, like us and chimpanzees or whatever are related to each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're related to each other. Yeah. Okay, so the closest one is actually the Asian elephant.
Mm-hmm.
It shares 99.6% of its DNA with an Asian elephant. Now, the cloning comment that they made is because there is a Dallas-based company called Colossus, and Colossus believes that they have enough mammoth DNA to bring a mammoth back. Now, the deal is they would have to fertilize an egg with mammoth DNA, and then it would still have to be born from something.
Yeah.
So it looks like they would put it in an Asian elephant, and then that would give birth to the first future mammoth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now, with all that being said, I guess the first question would be, well, why?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going.
There is a lot of the Arctic that is not the same as what it used to be. And in even other, like, I don't even know if I would call it wooded areas, but like jungle areas are not the same, because these mammoths, they would do these things where they would crunch down and compact snow. They would cause different types of plants to go up through what they've trampled. Also, they would push down larger trees and things like that, which would cause spots in the jungles to open up and different types of plants flourished. Also, different types of animals flourished. So they think bringing mammoths back would help with all of that.
Okay.
Now, the other flip side of it is I feel like then people start going, well, what about Jurassic Park? And we've all seen those movies, and that didn't turn out well for us. But the issue with Jurassic Park is human beings and, dinosaurs never existed at the same time. Mammoths and human beings did.
Yeah.
So we've been in this Homo sapien form for 200,000 years, give or take. But mammoths went extinct as early as, I had it written down here. Oh, they think in Siberia somewhere between 3,900 and 4,100 years ago, which means there were mammoths on the earth when we had the pyramids. I mean, that's not even that long ago.
Yeah.
They think the ones in the Yukon, because there are several different types and they were all over the world and they were different. The ones in the Yukon may have gone extinct somewhere around 7,500 years ago. So it's really not even that long ago. Like, we had languages and things like that. We had certain tools and technologies. I mean, not compared to today, but we weren't just sleeping on the ground or in caves or whatever.
Right.
So they're going to try to bring them back.
Okay.
What do you think of this?
I think that's a little bit ridiculous. So,
Really?
Yeah. Like, listen, all that's fascinating. Finding mammoth bones and knowing that everything that you can do now with the DNA, all that is fascinating. But the reason behind it just doesn't seem like that's sufficient enough to try to bring back. And I know it wasn't like a threat to us, but it just feels like that's not enough reasoning.
Well, he said also helping with some other species that are now endangered. It could also help with climate change because we would have more plant life in areas that are pretty barren right now.
So they basically like fertilize the ground, like
They do that, and then they also condition the ground because in some environments there's like permafrost where the ground is permanently frozen. And from what I've read, they break that up to a certain degree, not in all permafrost areas.
Yeah.
But here, let me show you their website. They've got you don't think it's a old friend and new hero?
No.
And then they talk about how it'll help the earth. I don't know. Maybe you guys will have to pause this if you want to read this at home.
Yeah.
Or I guess we could put just Google Colossus from Dallas is what I said.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So you still think this
No.
is a bad idea?
Yeah, I still think it's a bad idea. Like I said, it's extremely fascinating. And I know that there's been a lot of research, but it just like it feels like we have like tons of technology already that can probably do what they want to do in these areas that won't require us to bring back the woolly mammoth.
Well, let me ask you this. There are some things that have gone extinct because of human intervention. Do you think we should bring those back?
No. You mean like recent like birds or whatever, some type of creature
Something
recently
that maybe we impacted.
Yeah. No.
Why not?
I mean, I think that's unfortunate that, it's basically to solve or to help like human guilt. Yeah, we messed up. We
Is
took
it though?
this
Because we could have harmed the ecosystem, and maybe putting it back into balance would help.
There's other things that we've done to harm the ecosystem. Like, how do we know that this animal is going to survive in the world that we created now?
The mammoth?
Yeah, or whatever else that we try to bring back.
Well, they have some spots picked out for the mammoth, and one of them was in Russia. With the current climate, I don't know. Political climate, I don't know if that's still in play, but it's not like they're going to put it down in the middle of the city. They've got an area that they think it used to exist in, and they want it to help with, and they want to see what it could do.
And what this thing won't have any prey or like any predators. So how are you going to control it? Like if you get so far as to clone it, and are you just gonna make so many and then?
Well, wait a minute. Who says it doesn't have any predators? What happens if they pick a new spot and they say like northern Canada or something like that? There's tons of polar bears. Polar bears are some of the largest bears on the planet. Who says that one of them or a couple of them wouldn't think this is a good idea? They could eat for weeks.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sold on that. I don't think it's a good idea.
I think that we should do it. And I think that if we've destroyed something else or caused something else to go extinct, I think we should talk about bringing it back. I think we've done a lot of damage, and undoing some of the damage could help. I mean, before we stuck our hand in things, there was a delicate balance going on, and we've disrupted that, and it's not the same ever since.
Yeah.
Now, woolly mammoth, I don't think we're to blame entirely. I'm not saying that human beings didn't kill and eat those things. There's all types of like You go to a natural history museum, they've always got one display of a bunch of
Yeah.
guys with loincloths all running
Yeah.
after one with a spear thinking we're going to eat for a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. There's no other large animals in those environments anymore, and those environments have become very sterile and barren. And I would like to see life back in those areas.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's my case.
All right. Okay, well, moving on to the second topic, I wanted to talk about something that just happened recently. So I have this video up here. If you'll go ahead and play that, and we can talk about it.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Please, what was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry? I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government and what the rights of the people are. And I will always stand by the fact that I think government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was never meant to be all things to all people. Government doesn't need to tell you how to live your life. They don't need to tell you what you can and can't do. They don't need to be a part of your life. They need to make sure that you have freedom. We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way. What do you want me to say about slavery? Next question.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Did they turn his mic off? Why couldn't we hear? We heard him in the beginning and
yeah.
then we didn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And then, so he did, or someone else came up and said that they were surprised that she could say all that, but not mention slavery about the Civil War. So I don't know if you've seen that clip at all.
I have, yes.
Okay, but I felt like this was a huge missed opportunity for her, especially with everything going on in this country. Had a great explanation for this, something that's not made up, something that's not a bunch of fluff,
Yeah.
to just make people feel good, you know.
Yeah, and I'm kind of tired of this revisionist history stuff I've seen of late. It's probably been going on for a long time. But when everyone's just like, well, it's about states' rights.
Yeah,
It was about states' rights to own slaves.
right.
And that's not something that is an opinion. When you looked at their articles of war or their articles of succession, is that what you call it? When they succeed from so they all outlined the issue is slavery.
Right. Yeah.
And from what I can tell, from what I've read, the issue is that they were very heavily based on manual labor, their economy.
Yes.
And there wasn't any modern technology that could replace human beings. And they just basically took it as we're going to be economically ruined unless we have free labor.
Yeah.
And so they were like, well, we want to feed our families and stuff, so we don't want to be ruined. So they went to war over it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't understand why people will go, well, that's not technically. This is all available online. You can go to the Library of Congress and just read the original documents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I think I really dislike the northern aggression excuse. I don't know, that one always drives me crazy because it's not what it was about. You know.
Well, you know what the funny part about that is, because we've all heard that.
Yeah.
If you look at the timeline, it shows. I think it was right after Lincoln was inaugurated, and then almost immediately, and I might have that slightly wrong, but a lot of the states, they're what would you call it? They're not National Guard, but their state army or whatever, basically sacked all the federal bases. Like there were all these forts that were owned by the federal government, and they first thing they did was they just took them,
Yeah.
and then they took all the weapons, and then they held the fort, and then they declared that they were going to succeed, and then that's how the Civil War started. So who did the first thing? Well, they went against the federal government first.
Yeah.
So is it Northern aggression?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not how the timeline works.
Right. Yeah. And you know, I know that like the Civil War is a touchy subject.
Yes.
But like history doesn't have like a filter. It doesn't have like an age limit. It doesn't have like a parental guidance. So if it's hard to hear, it's just hard to hear. You know, like it's not like history's not rated like PG. You know, that's what I'm saying is that like there's going to be things in there that are going to be difficult to grasp, but like it was about slavery. Like the labor force was huge. Like and slaves did more than just like tend to crops or like clean the house. Like they did, like slaves did everything. Like that was your labor force. Like you said, like there was no modern technology. So if you needed roads to be done, like the slaves worked the roads, you know, they built buildings, they did all these types of things. So, you know, having that taken away from you, was going to affect you hugely.
I think the issue is we still have a similar problem going on with misinformation. People believe things that they've heard or that they were told, or, oh, I know this guy and he's trustworthy, blah, blah, blah. But we all have computers and cell phones and stuff now.
Yeah.
You can read the original documents and make up your own mind.
Right.
And I've seen like people call this out before, and I thought, I'm going to go online and read it. And you go right to the Library of Congress.
Yeah.
They've got all the documents scanned in. You just pull it up right there. Now, I will say for the Gen Zers here, you need to learn how to read cursive. But for us old Gen Xers, cursive's no problem. We learned it in the third grade. Yeah. I was able to read that just like that.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's you know, there are some aspects of history that are, I mean, all history is fascinating. Because I mean, at least for me, because it was like the first time for things like we have the capability to look back on it like, I can't believe that happened, or, you know, like thinking that there was another way. But in some of these instances, that was the first time for people dealing with something like that. So, you know, I don't know. You know, of course, hindsight.
Sure.
You know, but so I don't know. That's one thing that's always been interesting in looking back at things.
Yeah.
But I mean, not saying it makes anything right. You know,
No. But yeah, I'm surprised that she didn't just respond.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What's the difference? Just give your I guess political stance or opinion or whatever.
Yeah.
And move on. What's wrong with answering that question?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But, you know, I mean, I hope that because she's been called out a little bit. So, I mean, I hope that it doesn't lead to people continuing to like, you know, believe those things, or people not seeking out the real truth, you know?
Well, all she did was ignore it.
Yeah.
Which I agree with your first statement. Missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, from the past to the future, I have been seeing news articles and things for a couple of years now, or at least a year now, I believe, about, how do I even say this? You know how there's sat phones, like satellite cell phones, but they're for like people that go to Antarctica or they're way out in the middle of nowhere where you're not going to get service, and they're expensive, and they're not as slimline as like a modern smartphone.
Yeah.
Well, technology's changing. There's a lot of low orbit internet satellites going up right now. The one going up right now that is the largest. In fact, it actually doubles the amount of satellites that are in the sky is Starlink from SpaceX. There is also an Amazon one going up where they're testing a few right now, and then there is a Chinese one going up. But we've had internet, or not internet, but satellite phones for a while. But they were by and I wrote them down here. They're Inmarsat, Global Star, and then I think everyone knows Iridium is probably the most famous because it's got all the satellites. But the new system, these new internet-based systems, one will allow you to have a device that's actually just like a smartphone. In fact, it should just be a smartphone, and we'll still be able to access this. Now, a couple people have made promises, and we'll see what happens when. But the first one was Starlink said it's working with T-Mobile, and that in a couple years, and I don't know how many years that exactly is, they're going to start out with texting only. Imagine a scenario where maybe you're backpacking or something in the backcountry and you get stuck and you're in trouble and your cell phone doesn't work. You can text 911, and we couldn't do that before.
Yeah.
And that's from a normal cell phone, as long as you're on the T-Mobile plan. But then on top of that, Apple has said that, and I'm not sure which iPhone, but a future iPhone will just have the capability to use a satellite, and that it'll start with texting, then move on to light data, then move on to full phone calls. So it's a graduating plan over years.
Right.
And Starlink and T-Mobile were saying something similar. Of course, we're going to start with emergency texting, and it may be a scenario where in the beginning you type your text and you click send, and it might not go for like a minute. But if this is a life or death situation, something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But it sounds like maybe in the next, I don't even know, 10, 15 years, we may have cell phones that work globally and there's no dead zones,
Yeah.
which just sounds kind of cool to me.
Yeah.
And when you look at some of these old school sat phones, they were very expensive not only to buy but to operate. They roughly average between $80 to $100 a month for 60 minutes, and that was it.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't a smartphone; it was a talk phone.
Right.
But the new plans, they're thinking should be comparable or maybe just slightly more than existing plans, somewhere around 100, 120, maybe as much as like $150 a month with no dead zones, which I just think is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you will still have like, oh, I got 5G, so I got really fast internet. Oh, I'm in the middle of nowhere, and now I got maybe 3G or something. But before, you would have had nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I find the whole thing cool. What do you think?
Yeah. I didn't. I mean, I know that we have like, some dead zones or space where you don't get very good service, but I didn't know if it was that. Maybe because it hasn't really affected me, so I've been, I'm thinking about this like from a selfish point of view, but where it wasn't that big of a deal, that it wasn't that much of an issue.
Well, I mean, where we live, even like where we are right now, which is kind of a rural area, cell phone service is really good. I get 5G in my house.
Yeah.
Now, 10 years ago, sometimes you get 3G.
Yeah.
And 15 years ago, there was no cell phone service here.
Right.
So it is getting better anyways.
Yeah.
But there are tons of like very rural area that just doesn't get anything. And it'll cover those.
Yeah.
Plus, just think about like one of the things that Starlink has done is for people that like work, let's say like at the South Pole or at one of the Antarctic stations, they're able now to get broadband internet, and they weren't able to get broadband before. And the internet that they got before was only available during certain times when the satellite was overhead, and now they get it all the time.
Yeah.
And so we could even move to a scenario where they could have cell phones out in the field and they just work all the time. I think right now they use like radios to call back to base. But imagine if they maybe the radios become backups and the cell phones is how they're using them.
Yeah.
And then they get to use every day, like maybe underneath all their warm weather gear, they might have like Bluetooth devices and stuff. You know, who knows?
Yeah.
Kind of opens up a whole
Yeah.
door.
Okay.
I
Interesting.
don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Even though I probably won't
Yeah.
need the satellite piece, I just think it's another cool step of technology in the right direction. For,
So how many satellites are out there? Because I've seen like, I don't know, it's probably just an artist's rendering of a picture of Earth, and then it has like all these like satellites like covering the planet. But the more I think about it, as many satellites and things that we got going up, I feel like that probably is an accurate image. I don't know. I know that the Earth is larger than we can imagine. So that picture I'm talking about is probably, it's probably not to scale, or like, where things are probably spaced out more than you think, but maybe just that volume.
yeah, it's 100% not to scale. I've seen those where it just basically makes it look like the Earth is in a cloud.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look up number of satellites. The number, I want to say it's like a couple thousand at this point.
Yeah. Hold on. I may have found
Oh, right
something.
here. Okay. As of November 2023, the Starlink mega constellation consists of over 5,200 operational satellites,
Dang.
which I believe when they were in the 4,000s had, like, if you took Starlink out, I think there was only 4,000 satellites. And then Starlink added 4,000, and now they're at, well, over 5,200.
Yeah.
So they're more than half of the ones that are up there.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you, like last summer, I was outside looking up at stars, and I definitely noticed a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever seen a satellite go by?
I don't think so. Like, I've never really paid attention to look for one,
It looks like a lot of times just a faint star
Yeah.
that's slowly moving across the sky. And I remember as a kid, it being kind of really difficult to find, to see one. And I remember we'd lay there and see one and be like, oh, there's one. And everyone looks and tries to find it because it's hard to see
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes.
Okay.
But now it doesn't seem that hard to see.
Yeah, because there's so many. No.
Yeah, and I honestly think that Starlink said originally they wanted to do like, I want to say like 40,000 or something.
Dang. That's
Now
Yeah.
we don't know yet, but right now above 5,200.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when the weather gets warmer, I'm gonna have to make it a focus. I usually like mess around and look for constellations and stuff, but all right. So,
right.
moving on to the next one. Yeah, that's the one. So moving on to the next one. So have you ever like I know you used to fly a lot or travel quite a bit.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any like really chaotic flights or train rides, or has it all just kind of been easy and mellow?
No, I've had some during my career I had to fly a lot. And in the beginning of my career, I could sleep through terrible weather. And people would be crying and stuff like that on the airplane, and I'm just like, whatever, I'm just going to throw some headphones on and go to sleep. Didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
I have since been in some scenarios where it has kind of ruined me a little bit, and now I don't like to fly.
Oh, okay.
Like when I get on an airplane, I'm like, I want this to be over with. But
Yeah.
there were some times like
Yeah.
I saw a stewardess kind of grab a hold of the seat and her feet leave the ground,
Oh.
and then immediately jump into the chair next to me and slam a seatbelt on as fast as she could. And then when it all got done, because it lasted for like a minute, she looked over at me and she was like, well, that was kind of crazy. And then just undid her seatbelt, got up and went right back to helping people
Yeah.
out. I was
Oh.
like,
Yeah.
okay, my fingernails are dug into the thing and I don't know what to do
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. And what about passengers? Like other passengers being crazy, or you just, or like any
I have never-
unruly situations?
Most
like that?
of my flying was pre full on Karen
Okay,
days that we're
okay.
having nowadays.
Okay. Well, let's watch this video and then we'll talk about this event.
Okay.
So there's this woman, let's call her Penelope. Now the only thing we know about Penelope is that she's on a flight with Frontier Airlines, and it's her first time flying by herself unchaperoned. And so far the flight seems to be going pretty well. Until suddenly another passenger, this woman, who we'll call Loud Lady. For some unknown reason, Loud Lady starts freaking out and making a scene. And that's when Penelope starts recording. And as you can see, flight attendants and a couple of passengers, they try and restrain Loud Lady. Now, eventually, they get Loud Lady to calm down. But it's not long before she freaks out again. But then, this guy, who we'll call White Hat feels like he needs to jump in the middle of it. And for some reason, he and this flight attendant here, they start arguing. Then, because flight attendant is distracted, Loud Lady starts crawling over the seats to try and get to the front of the plane. Now, eventually, they stop her. And she's standing in the aisle again, and she suddenly takes a big swing at flight attendant, and luckily, she misses. Then, randomly, this woman, who we'll call Crazy Plane Preacher, she suddenly starts screaming about her God.
This is evidence that there's a real devil that wants to kill each and every one of y'all.
And for some reason, she decides it's an appropriate time to try and convert people.
Who doesn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ?
Then, Loud Lady ends up on the ground again with 2 flight staff holding her down, while Crazy Plane Preacher is now somehow in the back of the plane singing church hymns at the top of her lungs.
Okay, did you see the guy? He's exhausted.
She picks Loud Lady up off the floor and walks her to the back of the plane. And Headphones Woman gives Loud Lady a big hug, and that seems to calm her down. Meanwhile, you can still hear Crazy Plane Preacher singing church hymns at the top of her lungs. Oh, it's not over. Then, this woman stands up and threatens to fight. Who the hell knows at this point?
Ain't nobody playing with you, girl. You crazy? Me, come on. I'll be crazy right along with you.
Now, the plane hadn't even been in the air an hour, but the pilots already had enough of this nonsense. And they divert the plane to Dallas, and they land, and police come on board and escort Loud Lady out. And where is that airplane woman when you need her? I'm telling you. Sorry I don't have much more information on this video, but it was posted on Reddit with very little context. So Penelope, whoever you are, sounds like you had a good first flight.
Okay, that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare. What is wrong with our society now?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because even like 6-7 years ago, it wasn't like this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's happened, but like, what happened to the days of just sitting down in your seat and shutting up and like, reading the Airmail magazine or whatever it was.
Well, yeah, throwing some headphones on and minding your own business.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know.
That sounds terrible. That kind of crap makes me never want to fly again.
Yeah, I haven't been flying in a while, but I don't know. Like turbulence seems like the least of it now. Because
and what was it? Wasn't it like in 2002 or 2003? There was somebody that I remember seeing it on the news where somebody jumped up, started freaking out, and they were running to the cockpit.
Yeah,
because they said they had to get in the cockpit for some reason.
Yes.
And since it was just right after a couple of years after 9/11, a bunch of people in the front of the plane just got up and beat the crap out of that person.
yeah.
And it was on the news like, we are done dealing with this.
Yeah.
Now we're back to dealing with this?
Yeah. I don't know.
What?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Like, and you would think that for some people, like they know what's happened on planes, and I don't know. So it's awful.
Wasn't it just 6 months ago somebody opened up an emergency door?
Yeah.
And somebody several people had to go to the hospital because of that.
Yeah. And who knows? I have no idea what's gotten into people on flights. But yeah, all
this
types of
just in this country or other countries doing this crap too?
I don't know. It sounds like it's only this.
It's freaking embarrassing and terrible.
Yeah. I mean, you can't even take a domestic flight without some drama.
See, now, this is a prime reason why we should have self-driving cars.
No,
Because you just go out and you get in your car.
Yeah.
You say, I want to go across the country. And then you just fall asleep for the night.
yeah.
And you don't have to deal with any of this. I don't actually have a short for this, but we talked about it last time you were over and we were filming or recording or whatever you call this. So what was it? It was Fast and the Furious 3 was Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
Because Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yep.
And then Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is, of course, an older movie. It's what was like 2006 or something like that, or maybe it was before that. But I just found it fascinating that they wanted to record in certain areas of Tokyo. And there was a district called Shaobod, or Now I'm saying this wrong. Shibo?
Maybe that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead and eat me alive in the freaking comics. But the point is that it's a very busy area, and they were denied the filming permit. So the director, who basically said, well, we're just going to shoot it anyways. And they figured out, because they talked to a bunch of actual like street racers and drifters and stuff, that it takes about 10 minutes for once the cops are called for the police to get there.
Yeah.
So they just would come up with a game plan. They'd all drive into an area. They do what they need to do. Then the cops would get called, and then they would just get out of there.
Yeah.
And they even said that the police were very polite, and a lot of times just told them to cut it out, and that it wasn't that difficult of an experience. But they kept doing it, and at a certain point, the police were like, someone's got to get arrested here.
Yeah.
And the director's name is Justin Lin. And evidently the studio had paid another guy to pose as the director if this scenario ever played out.
Yeah.
And the guy went to jail.
Oh,
So at one part, I guess Justin didn't even know about it. At least that's the stories that I've heard. But he said, you know, oh, I'm the director. And the other guy's like, shut up. I'm the director.
yeah.
And they're like, well, you're under arrest. And he's like, I understand.
Yeah.
And then they just picked up and moved to another area and kept filming.
Oh, wow.
Still never got a filming permit. Isn't it
Yeah,
amazing?
that is.
I mean, they basically filmed the whole movie guerrilla style.
Yeah, right.
How do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And how much jail time did he get? Was it probably just something easy, like you know? Like a week?
I think it was like I think it was just like a day or
Yeah.
something. I don't know for sure, but
Yeah, but yeah.
that was the thing I got. But
Right.
yeah.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's intense. Because I mean, that's some real dedication.
Yeah. And I just think it's amazing that this was their plan.
Yeah.
Look, once we get over there, we need to do this. We got about 10 minutes and then
Yeah.
the police are going to be
Yeah.
there. I mean, what other movie was filmed that way?
Yeah. Yeah. None. Okay, so I know that money isn't always everything, but we talked about
It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. But we talked about like odd jobs a little bit here and there. But here's something I would like your feedback on, is if you would do this job for this amount of money.
All right, you want me to play this?
Yeah, go ahead.
An annual salary of $1.2 million. Would you dare to guard a lighthouse? No one will come to check on you while you work here. You can sleep anytime you want. Wake up and enjoy the scenery and go fishing. You need to ensure that the light on top of the lighthouse is functioning properly. Such generous benefits. Yet no one dares to apply. This is the most dangerous job in the world, guarding the Jumeau Lighthouse. It is located on the Brittany coast of France. No one will talk to you here. All you have is loneliness. What's worse is that this area frequently experiences powerful storms. Waves crashing against the tower can reach tens of meters high. Life could be lost at any moment. This photo was taken during a rescue operation. When we zoom in on the photo, we can clearly see the lighthouse keeper surrounded by waves. If the waves completely cover the lighthouse, he could be in danger. The lighthouse keeper still feels scared when recalling it. After seeing the entire process, would you still dare to go?
So do you think that you could I mean, it's 1.2 million a year. And I don't know, I don't know the terms, but I'm sure that they don't want somebody to replace somebody every year. So
Right.
So say this is like a 5-year commitment.
Well, what qualifications does someone need to be a lighthouse keeper?
I don't know, you probably just have to be able to, it's probably more self-survival than, because maybe somebody will show you what to do to make sure that the lighthouse is
Sure.
operational.
Or maybe some type of, I don't know, I'm thinking like a electrician would probably be somebody who can
yeah.
maintain the equipment. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'd personally do it.
Yeah,
I think the issue is that, one, I don't know if I have necessary skills.
yeah.
And two, I have a different set of skills, which don't pay that badly. So I'd rather just do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but look.
I mean, look, 1.2 million is way more than I'm making.
Yeah.
Which that would be really nice.
Yeah.
But I think my anxiety would be, I don't know if I could sleep like
Yeah.
that.
But listen, like they said, I mean, well, and the other thing for you is that you don't really like seafood, so
That's
fishing
true.
is out of the window.
I like fishing. I just normally
Okay,
give the
yeah.
fish to whoever I go fishing with. I don't want to eat it.
Yeah, but look, you get to be by yourself. You get to be alone. I'm sure that you got some type of technology, so you're not like totally cut off from the world. You know, maybe you got a satellite cell phone. You know,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that job's for me.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have a family, so I don't. If I didn't have anybody, I might try to.
Oh, you're more important than me. I get what you're saying.
No,
Nice. Nice.
Okay,
in your,
that's not where I
in
was
your
going.
caste-based system that you've worked out.
that's not where I was going with it.
No, but would you take a job for, let's say, like these window washers that wash like the side of like the tallest like skyscrapers?
Yeah,
You take one of those jobs?
I don't think so.
What if they paid you a lot of money?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because that's kind of the same thing you're asking me right now.
Well, no, because in this, you're secure in there. I know that the waves get crazy, but I'm sure like the door is sturdy.
What about a scientist that needs to get constant samples from an active volcano's rim?
Yeah, and then the volcano active. It's like an active volcano.
It's an active
no way.
volcano.
No way. One drop of lava, you're done.
So money isn't everything, is what
Yeah,
you're
I guess
saying.
not.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let us know what you think in the comments. If you would do this job, or any comments on anything else that we talked about. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.